And there's a lot of military families in South Carolina feeling exactly the same way she does every night. With us now, Wren, national politics correspondent at Politico, covering the Republican race. David Drucker, senior writer at the Dispatch, and Niall Stanage, White House columnist for The Hill. Gentlemen, thank you all. We appreciate it. Adam, since you're here, we are going to start with you. How big of a problem is the IVF conversation for Republicans?
Well, it instantly was sort of diffused for Republicans after former President Trump came out today and said that he was pro-IVF. Before that, there was a staggering silence among candidates down ballot, up and down the ballot. And so, you know, I was at an event with Tim Scott when he voted on Thursday, and he said that he hadn't studied the issue. And so there was a lot of tension.
So Trump says it, and then the rest of the party will follow.
That's
all
right.
And we've seen that on a lot of issues. David Drucker, you have sort of a unique insight into the donor base in the Republican Party. It's often said that the opposite of every primary candidate's problem is Nikki Haley's problem. Nikki Haley has a voter problem, not a donor problem. When you talk to donors, I have some of my own reporting, but when you talk to the big money donors who are continuing to put money behind Nikki Haley, what is their justification for continuing to support someone who keeps losing?
They want to see a Republican carry the message she's carrying, the traditional Reagan-era message, the message of normalcy. And I'll tell you, Leland, and speaking of voters here in South Carolina over the past couple of days, including at this rally here, what they were telling me is that they understand she may not win, although they don't accept that yet, but they're glad she's out there fighting the fight and saying what she's saying because they want to believe that that Republican Party still exists.
Fair enough. And they're willing to put their money where their mouth is. She's taking that fight on. She makes a good point, David, in our interview and in others over and over again, that she beats Trump. She beats Biden in a head-to-head matchup, double digits. Trump and Biden are tied right now in the polls. Niall, as you've traveled the state, and I know you're there near a Donald Trump event, why does that electability argument not seem to resonate with Republican voters?
Well, for one simple reason and one more complicated reason. The simple one is obviously Donald Trump won in 2016 and much of the Republican base clings to the belief he won in 2020. The other thing is they're just so enraptured by him still. This is Donald Trump's party, Leland. That's why you have someone like Nikki Haley, who is a talented politician, down by 30 points in her home state. It's not all to do with a failing of Haley's. It's to do with the fact that Trump is almost unbeatable in a Republican primary. General election, different story. Republican primary, it's his party.
Yeah, very, very, very much a different story, general versus primary. Adam, real quick to you, do these polls about Nikki Haley so badly beating Joe Biden scare Democrats at all?
You know, I think they do, but I think Democrats are largely resigned to the reality that Donald Trump is going to be the...
You say resigned. Are they secretly a little happy about it?
That would be fair. You know, I think they are, but at the same time, when you look at some of these battleground polls between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, you know, they don't have a lot of margin to be happy. I mean, Trump is leading in many of these states. You know, Michigan is a toss-up. Pennsylvania, he's leading. And so, you know, I think they have a tough road to hoe, whoever the nominee is.
All right, looking ahead to Super Tuesday, California, Trump 72, Haley 20. North Carolina, Trump plus 57. Vermont, Trump plus 30. David, where does Nikki Haley have, and I hate to put it in this blunt of terms, is there a state she has any chance to beat the man to be the man?
Well, that's a really good question. It's going to be very difficult for her because Super Tuesday is a quasi-national primary, and those national poll numbers where Trump is beating her so badly really come into play here. You can't just say, well, it's a state-by-state issue. National polls don't matter. I'd watch Virginia. I'd watch the Washington, D.C. primary. I'd see if she can do some damage in Texas where you've got proportional delegates being awarded. But it's just going to be a tough road to hoe for her because, you know, unlike years past, Leland, when it was the insurgent-minded candidates and part of the coalition that was trying to overcome the more traditional majority. The insurgents are now in the majority, and someone like Haley, who represents the Reagan part of the coalition, is now in the minority, and so she's got an uphill climb.
Niall, how much do you think tonight specifically, President Trump speaking to a black conservative coalition rather than having some large rally is maybe not to voters, but to the political class a sign of I'm not worried, I got this?
I mean, I think that Trump is strongly of the belief that he has this. I'm not sure how much that speech ultimately matters one way or another. Obviously, the former president believes that he could perhaps have more of an appeal to black voters. There is a class shift going on in American politics where working class voters, regardless of ethnicity, are becoming even more inclined toward the Republican Party. I think it's part of that picture, but I'm not sure how much it's connected to the primary.
Yeah, we're seeing that class divide in the primary here in South Carolina also. Working class voters breaking for Donald Trump, very strong in the northern part of the state, the southern part of the state, more affluent, more college educated, a lot of snowbirds and retirees breaking for Nikki Haley. It shows you where and why the candidates are on this last night before the polls open. Adam, Niall, David Drucker, gentlemen, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.